Good afternoon. My name is Paul Cancelleri. I'm the chairman of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board, and it's an honor to welcome some very special guests to the 2022 Town of Wakefield Memorial Day program. Today we're honored to have a host of special guests and speakers, veterans, members of military families, and thank you, Mr. Mayo, and the members of the Wakefield Town Council and state representatives Kate Lipper-Garabedian and Donald Wong and the Honorable Jason Lewis, and members of the Peach family, the Wakefield Veteran Service Officer Dave Mengen, the Vice President of the New England region of the Gold Star Wives, Marion Dennehy, and those that are presenting our colors will be the Girl Scout Cadets from Troop 62842, and presenting the Memorial Day wreath are the Boy Scouts from Troop 701. We have talented musical performers from the Wakefield Memorial High School, and we also have members of the American Legion Post 63 with us this afternoon. We're honored to have Jay Panett and his family as well as members of the Veterans Advisory Board. And finally, thank you to Reverend Bob LaRoe, who is also a retired chaplain from the United States Army. The first official observance of Memorial Day was on May 30th, 1868, when it was called Decoration Day, established by Major General John A. Logan of Illinois, the Grand Army of the Republic, at Arlington National Cemetery, where both Confederate and Union soldiers were buried. May 30th was the original Decoration Day, chosen because no Civil War battle occurred on this day. Through decades of state proclamations and Army and Navy regulations, an act of Congress was approved in 1971, creating a law declaring Memorial Day as a day to honor all those who died in American wars on the last Monday of May. Today, let us also remember over 81,000 American military personnel that are listed as either prisoners of war or missing in action. Memorial Day is often thought of as the unofficial start of summer, and today I call upon all of us to commemorate Memorial Day as a solemn day of remembrance for the fallen, as well as those missing, and service members who sacrificed their lives defending our freedom. Perhaps the best tribute that I can share can be found at Hanscom Air Force Base, which is attributed to Korean War veteran and Purple Heart recipient Howard William Osterkamp from Dent, Ohio. The inscription reads, "All gave some gave all." Please rise as Cadet Ainsley Burns, Leah McCarthy, Maya McCarthy, Isabella Fanjoy, Morgan McRobbie, and Alexandra Milligan from the Girl Scout Troop 62842 post the colors. John Bowling and Tom Lyons from the American Legion Post 63 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then please remain standing while high school student Zachariah Bumhart performs the national anthem. And I ask that you remain standing until Reverend Bob LaRoe delivers the invocation.
Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Color guard post the colors. Color guard honor the colors. Color guard take your seats.
Uncover. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us pray. Lord of hosts, this Memorial Day weekend we honor your sovereignty over our nation. And we thank you for granting us patriots who gave of themselves so that we might enjoy the blessings of liberty. We pay homage to those who have fallen in battle. We are mindful of their sacrifices. And so we intercede for America today. Lord, our refuge, keep us safe and help us to follow in the traditions of those who have marched before us without fear. Especially watch over our servicemen and women who are laboring to free our world from the threat of terrorism. Bless them and their families. We honor the service of so many, lest we forget. And Lord, may we never cease to honor you as one nation under God. All this we ask in your strong and mighty name. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, cadets, folks from the American Legion, Post 63, Zachariah, and Reverend LaRoe for officially opening the Town of Wakefield's 2022 Memorial Day program. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to share with you a personal story. First, it's no secret that I embrace history, and of course, military history. I came to Wakefield looking for a home following 12 consecutive years of military service overseas, in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And my family and I were exhausted, and my wife wanted to return to New England. The United States Army assigned me to teach Army ROTC at Boston College and Northeastern University. And while driving through Wakefield, I saw the name General Galvin Middle School. And I stopped in to inquire if this was the same General John Galvin that I had once briefed. I entered the school and realized Wakefield is General Galvin's hometown. I then peeked into the auditorium and I realized I had entered a room of honor. I looked at the photos of the fallen, which today hang in the hall outside this auditorium. It was in that moment that I made a decision. And I've been a Wakefield resident for the past 26 years. Did you know that General Jack Galvin had a role to play to end the Cold War while he was the commander of the European Command? He continued to strengthen the European Command, a joint command comprised of large units from all Department of Defense service branches, while the former Soviet Union collapsed. The service flags on the stage represent the service branches at the time General Galvin was the commander of the European Command from June of 1987 to June of 1992. And General Galvin is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Thanks to the military service of so many troops and their families, we gather today in what is known as Memorial Auditorium, a place of honor in the town of Wakefield. Our first speaker today is the chair of the Wakefield Town Council. Maureen Butt will offer her greetings on behalf of the town of Wakefield and represent the town council. Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you to the Veteran Advisory Committee for this invitation. It is a privilege to be here today and to honor those who have died in American wars. I'm Marion Butt, the chair of the town council. I'm speaking on behalf of my other town councilors, including Jonathan Chines, Julie Smith-Galvin, Ed Dombrowski, and Mike McLean, who are here today, and Ann Dennehy and Bob Vincent, who could not make it today. Councilor Vincent, a veteran, is actually at a Memorial Day service in Connecticut and sends his regards. There's many people to thank for the ceremonies like this happening all across the country today. I want to in particular thank those that placed flags on the Wakefield graves and for those who have been killed in battle. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day, and I thank those who dedicated time last week and this weekend to honor those who passed. Our town looks beautiful today as we see the wreaths and flags all over. Every year, I observe the day by remembering those who served our nation and are no longer with us. On Saturday, my family and I went to the Boston Common to see the Memorial Day Flag Garden. There are 37,000 American flags placed in the Common, each representing a Massachusetts military person who died during serving our country. The honoraries include individuals from the Revolutionary War to present day, including Johanny Rosario, age 25, a Marine sergeant from Lawrence who was killed in Afghanistan last August. I thought about how each of these flags represents a person with loved ones who are left behind, and a way to show respect for all that they did is to share their stories. For the last year, I've had the privilege to be the town council liaison to the Veterans Advisory Board. At the meeting just last Saturday, David Mangan, Wakefield Veterans Service Officer, mentioned the need to share and retain the stories of those who serve. So please indulge me while I share a story of a fellow classmate from Tufts University, Benjamin Slaver. As some know, Vice Chair Jonathan Chines and I both graduated from Tufts. While at Tufts, I had few friends who, like Ben, did ROTC, the Reserve Officers Training Corps. This meant they got up really early to train and spent their summers at boot camp. Ben was an international relations major and I was a biology major, so we didn't have many classes together. But most on campus knew who Ben was. And I think enough time has passed to honestly say that most knew Ben because most had a crush on Ben. Upon graduation, I went to law school just like Ben's parents, and Ben, he joined the Army. He was assigned to the 472nd Civil Affairs Battalion, U.S. Army Reserve in Greenboro, North Carolina. And on October 2nd, 2009, at the age of 32, Army Captain Benjamin Slaver died while serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. It's been 13 years since his death, and each year I reread about Ben's life. Ben was a humanitarian who lived and died trying to fix whatever he found broken in the world. He started a nonprofit called Clean Water Initiative that worked to bring clean drinking water to people in Uganda. He helped find new sources of clean water, helping dig wells or creating protected springs. He dedicated his life to helping others and serving his country. As a friend said of Ben, he saw the Army as a way to do greater good. On this Memorial Day, I take a moment to reflect on Ben and his life. His main motivation was humanitarian aid. I share his story and hope that you all share stories of others who made the ultimate sacrifice. The sharing of stories is how we honor those men and women who have died while serving the greater good. It's how we all, as children of Massachusetts, honor those from Wakefield and the 37,000 others from our state who died. Ben was Jewish, and in the Jewish tradition, one says, may his memory be a blessing when somebody passes. I hope you all take a moment to remember someone who served and have a meaningful day today. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your day and sharing Ben's story.
Thank you, Chair Butt, for your Memorial Day greetings. Our next speaker is our State Representative, Kate Lipper-Garabedian, representing the 32nd Middlesex District, consisting of Malden, Ward 5, Precinct 2, Melrose, Wakefield, Precincts 4, 5, and 6.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board for bringing us all together for a memorial service for Memorial Day. I'm pleased to be here as one of the two Wakefield state representatives. I think both Representative Wong and I consider Wakefield to be all of ours to share together, and it is truly an honor to represent a town that cares so deeply about its veterans and the families of those veterans. We remember today not only those who have served and lost their lives putting forward the most ultimate of sacrifices, but also the family members they leave behind. And it's been a pleasure to meet and talk with multiple generations here on stage who care deeply about this level of civic engagement and support for our veteran community. At the State House, we have been pleased to put forward a number of policies to support our veterans and the families of veterans, including our fallen heroes. And just this year, we have passed in both chambers and are working on a final bill related to our veterans' homes, because we know that it is important to care for those who care for our country and support and protect our freedoms. So again, it is a pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to hearing from the others.
Thank you, Representative Lipper-Garabedian, for your Memorial Day words. Next, I invite State Representative Donald Wong, who represents the 9th Essex District, consisting of Lynn, Ward 1, Precincts 1 and 2, Saugus, Precincts 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and Wakefield Precincts 1, 2, 3, and 7 in Middlesex County. Representative Wong.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here and join with you today to honor our fallen heroes. Memorial Day, we come together as a community, as a nation, to pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. In America's short history, over 1 million soldiers have made the ultimate sacrifice. That includes 37,000 soldiers from Massachusetts. They are remembered with the planting of the flags on Boston Common. It's a wave, an ocean of U.S. flags. I hope you have a chance to go down and visit the site. I leave you with this quote from James A. Garfield. They accepted death and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and virtue. I also want to thank all the Gold Star families out there that have also suffered and given part of their soul. God bless the fallen heroes, and God bless America. Thank you.
Representative Wong, thank you for a Memorial Day greeting. Our next speaker is the Honorable Jason M. Lewis. State Senator Jason Lewis proudly represents the people from the 5th Middlesex District of Massachusetts, which includes the cities and towns of Malden, Melrose, Reading, Stoneham, Wakefield, and parts of Winchester. He was first elected to the Senate in 2014. Please welcome Senator Lewis.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board. Thank you to all of you for being here today. It's a privilege and an honor to join you. Over the years, we have commemorated the sacrifices of our fallen service members and their Gold Star families on Memorial Day through good times and hard times. These last few years during a global pandemic have certainly been difficult for many of us, none more so than our elderly veterans, who in many cases have faced significant health risks and social isolation. But even in the midst of this most challenging time in our nation's history, we recognize how much we as Americans have to be thankful for. We recognize that the freedom, the opportunities that we enjoy are not shared by millions, tens of millions of less fortunate people around the world who live under despotic rulers who do not respect human rights. And we recognize that the freedom and the opportunities that we enjoy come from the struggle and the great sacrifices of our previous generations. President Wilson said of the American flag, "The lines of red are lines of blood, nobly and unselfishly shed by men who loved the liberty of their fellow men more than they loved their own lives and fortunes." Today, we offer our deepest gratitude to those who have given their lives for our country, to their family members and loved ones, and to all those men and women who have served in our armed forces, including those serving right now all around the world, because it is thanks to them that we can sleep peacefully tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lewis, for your Memorial Day words and inspiration. Our first presentation is the Massachusetts Medal of Liberty. And I'm going to just kind of get off script. We're going to do a photo opportunity with John Peach as you do the presentation, so don't, walk through it slowly, okay? Thank you. Dave Mangan, standing in the center stage, the Wakefield Veteran Service Officer, will share a few words about this award and then present the honor to John Peach in honor of his brother, Seaman First Class Chester James Peach. Following Mr. Mangan's presentation, I would ask that our guests rise and join David Mangan and John Peach in either a semicircle or some sort of informal gathering so that we can get a nice photo from the audience. Pictures are definitely encouraged. Thank you very much, Dave Mangan, for doing this award for the Peach family.
The Massachusetts Medal of Liberty. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. Massachusetts has a special medal for the next of kin of servicemen and women from the Commonwealth killed in action or who died in service while in a distinguished designated combat area in the line of duty or who died as a result of wounds received in action. Seaman First Class Chester James Peach, United States Navy, aboard the USS Hancock in World War II, April 7, 1945. Unfavorable weather prevented operations for the Hancock when a kamikaze roared towards the ship, diving out of the sun, and as the anti-aircraft fire exploded the plane some 300 feet above the ship, a section of his fuselage landed amidship, and a part of the wing exploded, and debris hit the flight deck, and gunnery sections burst into flames. Prompt and skillful teamwork quickly extinguished the blaze and prevented serious damage. During the attack, Chester James Peach was a battle casualty. And at the age of 22, and as an anti-aircraft gunner while in battle, his section was hit by the Japanese kamikaze aircraft in the Pacific. 62 men were killed that day and several wounded. Chester was a casualty during the attack and was buried at sea. His heroic actions in the face of the attack helped in saving hundreds of his comrades aboard the ship. The Medal of Liberty being awarded to his family today is a testament of his courage and brave commitment to America and victory during World War II. Today we honor this medal to the Peach family of Seaman First Class Chester Peach. Accepting this meritorious award for the family is Chester's brother and a veteran, John Peach. John? Just one thing real quick. And I want to say that when I met John, he came to my office at the senior centers where the Veteran Service Office is located. I asked John to tell me the story, and he started telling me it. And when he told me about Chester, he said, you know, after Chester had died in battle, and they brought the flag to the house, and that was about it. That's what they did back then. There were a lot of soldiers being killed, and they brought the flag, with ceremony was right there with the parents. And when John noticed that in the item newspaper that he was on the front page receiving the award for his brother, he was very emotional about it, of course, but he said, my brother never made the front page until today. And it was a wonderful testament to the service of his brother. Thank you very much.
I'm going to go off script here.
Sorry.
Thank you very much for the Thunder Chiefs in April.
Oh, is that what I think it is?
Yeah.
Aha! The General Patton Homestead Award.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you, John. Our keynote speaker today is Marion Dennehy. Marion is a member of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board, the Westside Social Club, and the Wakefield Council of Clubs. She's the vice president for the New England region of the Gold Star Wives of America. And just this past week, I believe Marion drove over 700 miles to attend dozens of Memorial Day ceremonies and events throughout New England. Marion's work serves many military families. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marion Dennehy.
Good afternoon. First, I want to not just thank the dignitaries representing our town and our state that are attending here today, but all of you who took time to come to this ceremony to honor our fallen. A day when many gather with family and friends at cookouts to enjoy each other's company and catch up or maybe head out for a day at the beach. That you have taken the time to first come here before heading off to enjoy those events, says that you care about those that gave their lives to protect all of us and our country, and that is important. My name is Marion Dennehy. I am the current Vice President of the New England region of Gold Star Wives of America, an organization that no one really strives to become a member of, I can assure you. Gold Star Wives of America was formed in 1945 in the living room of our founder, Marie Spears. Marie, along with a small group of military widows, including Eleanor Roosevelt, started the group, and with the help of the Gold Star Mothers Organization, we became incorporated in 1948. The organization was formed for the purpose of helping the widows of those that gave their lives in World War II, to fight for them to be able to receive financial aid from the government, and to also give those like themselves the emotional support needed to deal with their loss and go forward with their lives. Many of these widows had lived on military bases, had never worked. After receiving news of their husband's death, they were given 30 days to leave their homes on base. Some ended up living together to help with supporting themselves and caring for their children. Others had to go home to their families or the families of their husbands to help in surviving and refocusing their lives, as no help came from our government. This is why the Gold Star Wives of America was formed, and that is still the purpose of the organization today, to fight for those left behind and give them both the financial support and the emotional support for those who know from those that know what they are dealing with. We are here to help both wives and husbands to go on with their lives after the loss of their spouse. It is also our mission to help all Gold Star family members and our veterans in any way we can. I come from a family of veterans. My father, 4 uncles, and 1 aunt served our country during World War II. One of those uncles, my father's youngest brother, was lost in the war, so my association to Gold Star families began at a very young age. I will always remember the Gold Star flag that hung in my grandparents' window to remind us of my uncle and what he gave his life for his country. An uncle who regrettably I never got to meet. My parents always taught us to respect the veterans and to honor them, and my husband and I brought that teaching forward to our children. My husband, Richard Dennehy, grew up here in Wakefield, and upon graduating from Wakefield Memorial High School in 1965, he joined the Navy. He served most of his tour as a yeoman aboard the USS Estes, which has since been decommissioned. After 3 denials from his Navy chief, who viewed him as a son and wanted to keep him safe, the chief finally acquiesced and signed his request to serve in Vietnam. He spent his last year in country, arriving during the Tet Offensive in 1968. Not a fun start to his tour. He was a river rat, the name given to those assigned to the riverboats that patrolled the Mekong River at times. Those patrols wore boots on the ground, exposing them to the toxins sprayed along the delta to kill the foliage. Richie, as he was known to his family and school friends, and Dick to his Navy buddies and those he met after his service, was one of the lucky ones, or so we thought. He arrived home from his tour on February 14th, 1969, and we were married on February 14th, 1970. He picked that date, as he said, so he would always remember our anniversary. It worked. We lived in Melrose, my hometown, where our 2 children were born. However, he kept moving us closer to Wakefield in each of our 3 moves until he finally got us to his childhood home. This is where we raised our daughters and where I have lived for the past 33 years. He was active in town, as well as at the Westside Social Club, where he was a member and served as their treasurer until he was taken ill. He was well known and well loved by many at that club and in the town. In 1994, he fell ill, and he was diagnosed with small cell lung cancer, which his oncologists attribute to his exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. So many of those veterans who served there also fell victim to that awful toxic substance. Small cell cancer is a cancer that travels through your bloodstream, attacking first one organ and then another and another, until it ultimately hits your vital organs. We watched each day for 2 years as he slipped away, knowing we could not do anything to stop what would eventually happen. He passed away in October of 1996, 3 months before his 50th birthday. We were married almost 27 years when he died, and this year will mark 26 years he has been gone from us. I became a member of the Gold Star Wives of America 3 years after Richie's death, when the president of the Greater Boston chapter reached out to me to join the organization. I have been honored to serve the organization as both a Greater Boston chapter and New England region officer, but more importantly, as a support for so many that have felt the same loss in the same way as I have, and I am still today receiving that same support in return. The loss never leaves you, but you do learn to go forward with the help of your peers. Only those that have really been there can really know how you feel. The Gold Star Wives will be having their 77th National Convention in Boston this July, and I look forward to meeting yet more of my Gold Star sisters to hear their stories and give support for those who may need a shoulder to lean on, or just somebody to talk to who understands. On Memorial Day, many of us from the Gold Star, both from the Gold Star families and those that are lucky enough not to be in that category, honor the lives of those we have lost to their military service. Many, unfortunately, are still of the opinion that we honor only those that were killed in action. While those men and women are to be honored, to me, any of our men and women who have lost their lives because of their service to this country should be honored on this day. Those that were wounded and came home to suffer for years from their wounds before passing, they served honorably. Those that, like my husband, were exposed to toxic agents such as Agent Orange, not knowing the effects of a material that was in their water, in their food, and the ground they fought on. They came home to suffer, in many cases, for years before passing, and some are still suffering today. They served honorably. Those that are being exposed to other toxins even today and dealing with the same issues of those exposed to Agent Orange, they served honorably. Those that came home with PTSD and ultimately died of suicide after fighting those demons and losing, they too served honorably. All these men and women served honorably for this country, along with those who served and were killed in action. And all deserve our thanks for their service, and to be honored not only on Memorial Day every year, but every day. For without their sacrifice, their suffering, and their service, we would not have the freedom we so very much embrace every day. I thank you for this opportunity to share my feelings about Memorial Day with you. It is a very important day to me, as is any day that I can honor those that served and are still serving today. I also again want to thank you all for coming out to attend the ceremony, as it is important that we never forget these brave men and women. When you see a veteran, please let them know how much you appreciate their sacrifice and service. As any veteran can tell you, it is important they know that they and those who have gone before them and those that will come after them are honored, appreciated, and most of all, not forgotten. God bless you all. God bless our troops, past and present, and God bless the USA. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion, for all you do for the Gold Star wives and military families and our veterans. And I think I'm making arrangements for the 16th of July down in Boston at the Park Plaza to join the Gold Star wives during their convention this summer. At this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Robert Ettinger, the Secretary of Veterans Advisory Board, for a special presentation. But before I do, I'd like to point out something very, very unique about the American military force. We are a world-class fighting force that consists of the United States Army, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, the United States Space Force, the United States Coast Guard, and the National Guard. And in 1973, following the Vietnam War, the United States ended the draft and created what we know today as the all-volunteer force. Less than 1% of America's population has served in our armed forces. Perhaps the greatest strength our military has is our non-commissioned officer corps. The sergeants, the petty officers, the chief petty officers, the senior airmen, the staff sergeants, the master sergeants, the gunny sergeants, the first sergeants, the sergeants majors. This is truly the backbone of our military. Few nations have a non-commissioned officer corps that can be trusted to train troops, train future leaders, and maintain the equipment and weapons required to fight and win wars. At this particular moment, I'd like to call Jay Panett and his family to the center stage, and I also ask that distinguished guests join and rise also to welcome Jay Panett and his family as we present a proclamation that Robert will read to Jay and his family for the work that he has done as a veteran service officer and as the chair of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Panett.
Proclamation. James F. Panett III, Master Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired. Whereas, James Panett is dedicated to his family as a husband to his wife, Carol, a father to his daughters, Kathleen and Caroline, and as the oldest of 7 siblings. Sadly, at age 28, Caroline lost her courageous battle with adrenal cancer a year ago. James Panett demonstrated personal strength to his family, friends, and hundreds of medical professionals as a man of faith, guiding many through difficult times. And whereas James Panett is a dedicated engineer for 27 years with Thermo Cardiosystems medical devices, applying his passion for problem-solving, education, inductive and deductive reasoning, forging a deep desire to prolong human life. And whereas James Panett honorably served his country as a United States Marine from 1973 to 1976, and as a reservist from 1976 through 1996, and was activated to deploy during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. While deployed, he served as an operations communications chief, leading Marines who served in a variety of technical and combat support roles. Ultimately, Panett retired military service as a United States Marine Master Sergeant in 1996. And whereas James Panett served as a dedicated veteran service officer for the towns of Saugus, Wakefield, and the city of Melrose in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As the veteran service officer, Panett mastered the Commonwealth Veteran Service systems, connecting veterans and their families to national Veterans Affairs programs, delivering earned veterans benefits. Panett skillfully built affiliations with dozens of local veteran service organizations, such as the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the Disabled American Veterans, enabling veterans to obtain earned benefits such as housing, health care, food, transition, and economic assistance. And whereas James Panett's public service extended to the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board, where he formed a cohesive group of volunteers who willingly formed the monthly Veterans Coffee at the Quannapowitt Yacht Club, supported by Honeydew Donuts, the Veterans Corner, a column in the Wakefield Daily Item to keep veterans informed, planned dedication of Veterans Field, planning of annual Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and wreath ceremonies. Thanks to his efforts, Wakefield veterans enjoy a dedicated parking spot at Town Hall. His numerous community accomplishments were never hindered by the recent pandemic. Now, therefore, the town of Wakefield, the town of Saugus, and the city of Melrose proudly present this proclamation honoring Master Sergeant James F. Panett III, United States Marine Corps, for his 5 years of dedicated public service to veterans and their families as an example to all of faithful public service in our communities. So help me God.
Jay, thank you for everything that you do. The Boy Scouts of Troop 701 will present and place the wreath up front in the center of the auditorium. And at the conclusion of today's ceremony, they will also help us to bring and transport the wreath over to the War Memorial, where we can present that also for the service members that have fallen. Thank you, Scouts. The stories of famous generals and admirals are easily found in history books and on the websites. The stories of the individuals who did not return home can be more difficult to find, and indeed more difficult to share. Once again, I will turn the podium over to Robert Ettinger as we honor the 161 fallen and missing from the town of Wakefield. Following their name, a member, Lieutenant Curran from the Wakefield Fire Department, will ring the bell, honoring the fallen as well as the missing.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. As Paul said, my name's Rob Ettinger, a member of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board. Just before we get started, I'll go off script for a second to say I do enjoy Paul's story about how he chose his hometown when he found out that it was the hometown of General Galvin. I also served under General Galvin in Europe in the late 80s and early 90s. And the important part of what I wanted to say is my daughter is an 8th grade student here at the Galvin, and they're going on a class field trip to Washington, D.C. the week after next. And part of the itinerary down there is that their class is going to visit General Galvin's gravesite at Arlington Memorial Cemetery. So I think that's a terrific opportunity and a great way to honor the general. So today it is my honor to recognize our Wakefield fallen heroes. Memorial Day is the day of honor our service members who never took off their uniform. I speak of those who fell in battle. The banners you see out on Main Street have the names of some of our troops that never took off their uniform. Today we remember their names, from the battles of Saratoga of 1777 to Operation Iraqi Freedom. Some of the fallen have yet to be identified. These are those missing in action or are prisoners of war who have yet to return home. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier honors those unidentified heroes. It is guarded by sentinels from the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, known as the Old Guard. The sentinels guard the tomb every day and every night throughout the year, no matter the weather. The sentinels march 21 steps down the black mat behind the tomb. Turn and face east for 21 seconds, turn and face north for 21 seconds, and then take the 21 steps back down the mat, always keeping their weapon closest to the visitors, signifying that he or she stands between the tomb and any possible threat. The number 21 symbolizes the highest symbolic military honor that can be bestowed, the 21-gun salute. Here today are volunteers that will read each of the names of Wakefield's fallen heroes. To honor the fallen, each volunteer will read 21 names of Wakefield heroes who never took off their uniform, each one followed by a ringing of a bell by the Wakefield Fire Department.
From the Battle of Saratoga, 1777, and the Civil War. Joshua Eaton, U.S. Army. Sylvester P. Aborn, U.S. Army. Warren Aborn, U.S. Army. George W. Anderson, U.S. Army. N. Ayers Avery, U.S. Army. Robert S. Beckwith, U.S. Army. James Bond, Jr., U.S. Army. William W. Bryant, U.S. Army. Aaron Burdett, U.S. Army. Charles F. Burdett, U.S. Army. George H. Chandler, U.S. Army. Richard W. Chapman, U.S. Army. Leonard Clifford, U.S. Army. Bernard Conway, U.S. Army. Daniel Conway, U.S. Army. John Cowdery, U.S. Army. Charles M. Dow, U.S. Army. Edward D. Dunn, U.S. Army. Consider Edmonds, U.S. Army. O'Neill J. Estes, U.S. Army. Franklin H. Foster, U.S. Army.
Fallen soldiers from the Civil War. Wingate Garland, U.S. Army. George H. Green, U.S. Army. James Hebbets, U.S. Army. Joseph Kelly, U.S. Army. George L. Locke, U.S. Army. Joseph H. Mansfield, U.S. Army. Andrew A. Mason, U.S. Army. John P. McKay, U.S. Army. Thomas M. McKay, U.S. Army. Thomas M. McKellen, U.S. Army. John L. Moore, Jr., U.S. Army. John F. Moses, U.S. Army. Jonathan Pillings, U.S. Army. Frederick S. Richards, U.S. Army. Sloan C. Smith, U.S. Army. Frank Snow, U.S. Army. James W. Stimson, U.S. Army. William W. Stimson, U.S. Army. Francis Sweetser, U.S. Army. Luther Sweetser, U.S. Army. Augustus Taylor, U.S. Army.
From the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and World War I. Eben Davis Upton, U.S. Army. Alvin S. Warren, U.S. Army. George H. Whitehead, U.S. Army. Augustus T. Wiley, U.S. Army. Herbert A. Wiley, U.S. Army. Samuel A. Wiley, U.S. Army. William Wiley, U.S. Army. John H. Woodfin, U.S. Army. Charles F. Parker, U.S. Army. Herbert E. Biggs, U.S. Army. Robert Gibbs, U.S. Navy. Harry E. Nelson, U.S. Army. Alvin W. Gordon, U.S. Army. William H. Cartland, U.S. Army. Edward S. Burrell, U.S. Army. Henry J. Nacella, U.S. Army. Ambrose P. Hughes, U.S. Marine Corps. Edward M. Fay, U.S. Army. Henry A. Iyengar, U.S. Marine Corps. Crowell G. Fish, U.S. Army. Clark R. Lincoln, U.S. Army.
Fallen from World War I, Roy P. Stone, U.S. Army. Nicola DeFleece, U.S. Army. Thomas E. Muse, U.S. Army. Nicola Volano, U.S. Army. John T. Burns, U.S. Army. George W. Killoran, Jr., U.S. Army. Albert R. Townley, U.S. Army. Bert L. Johnson, U.S. Army. Paul Cartwright, U.S. Army. Patrick Neville, U.S. Army. Michael J. Gibbons, U.S. Army. Joseph J. Buckley, U.S. Army. John P. Dungan, U.S. Army. John C. Brockbank, U.S. Army. John P. Duggan, U.S. Army. Andrew McClellan, U.S. Army. Robert Fitzbaker, U.S. Marine Corps. Walter H. Lund, U.S. Army. James Marchino, U.S. Army. Richard P. Morrill, U.S. Army. Raymond E. Smith, U.S. Army.
Fallen from World War I, Charles A. DeCecca, U.S. Army. John A. Newchild, U.S. Army. William F. Morrill, U.S. Army. Wendell R. Hovey, U.S. Army. Thomas F. Hurton, Jr., U.S. Army. Maxwell A. Eaton, U.S. Navy. Ralph S. Johnson, Jr., U.S. Army. Stephen Kentucha, U.S. Navy. Henry O. Burrell, U.S. Army. George B. DeRoche, Jr., U.S. Army. William H. Ibling, U.S. Army. Lawrence A. Anderson, U.S. Army. George S. Watts, U.S. Army. Peter Colantonio, U.S. Army. Warren D. Goodwin, U.S. Army. Ralph L. Barthelms, U.S. Navy. Wilfred E. LeBlanc, U.S. Army. Peter J. Caracco, U.S. Navy. Robert G. Rutledge, U.S. Army. Jerry F. Peck, U.S. Army. Dudley F. Holden, U.S. Army.
Fallen from World War II, Charles W. Mills, U.S. Army. Harold N. Goodspeed, Jr., U.S. Army. Frank J. Driscoll, Jr., U.S. Army. Calvin W. Curtis, U.S. Army. John J. Muse, Jr., U.S. Army. Kenneth W. Lindsay, U.S. Army. John Halday, U.S. Marine Corps. Frank A. Kelly, U.S. Marine Corps. Arthur A. Harper, U.S. Marine Corps. John A. Benedetto, U.S. Army. Cameron A. Storty, U.S. Navy. Robert C. Clement, U.S. Army. Gardner H. Peterson, U.S. Army. Paul R. Krubel, U.S. Army. Frank J. Martin, U.S. Army. Bernard K. Massman, U.S. Army. Pearlie W. Lombard, Jr., U.S. Army. George E. Milliner, U.S. Army. Frederick H. Malson, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. James H. Ashenden, U.S. Army.
Fallen from World War II, Howard I. Mills, U.S. Army. James K. Hastings, U.S. Army. Robert V. Ewell, U.S. Army. John L. Del Rossi, U.S. Army. Malcolm R. Corbett, U.S. Marine Corps. Edwin F. Emerald, U.S. Army. Gustine T. Julian, U.S. Army. Ralph E. Bazell, U.S. Army. Richard L. Porter, U.S. Army. Donald L. Whitehouse, U.S. Army. Dominic A. Croce, U.S. Army. Russell H. Francis, U.S. Army. Wendell L. Vedito, U.S. Marine Corps. Francis E. Babine, U.S. Army. Albert W. Chapoulis, U.S. Marine Corps. Felix Tedesco, U.S. Army. Wayne Schumann, U.S. Army. John W. Talbot, U.S. Navy. William J. Reed, Jr., U.S. Navy. Philip J. Gillen, U.S. Navy.
Edward A. Adams, U.S. Army. John F. Glynn, Jr., U.S. Navy. Robert J. Orley, U.S. Army. Edward J. Muse, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Gerard F. Scott, U.S. Army. Richard W. Mason, U.S. Marine Corps. John F. Fitzgibbons, U.S. Army. John P. Legge, U.S. Navy. Peter B. Rich, U.S. Army. Peter F. Graham, U.S. Marine Corps. Anthony G. Villardo, U.S. Marine Corps. Harvey A. Julia, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Daniel M. Jones, U.S. Navy. Joseph Bellavia, U.S. Army.
Thank you to each of our volunteers for honoring our town's fallen heroes. Could I ask you to join me in a moment of silence, 21 seconds to honor them. Please stand.
Please remain standing. TAPS is a bugle call that dates back to 1862 when U.S. General Daniel Butterfield and his brigade were camped at Harrison's Landing, Virginia, recuperating after 7 days' battle near Richmond. Dissatisfied with the standard bugle call employed by the Army to indicate to his troops it was time to go to sleep, and thinking that the call should sound more melodious, Butterfield reworked an existing bugle call used to signal the end of the day. After he had his brigade bugler, Private Oliver Wilcox Norton, play it for the men, the buglers from other units became interested in the 24-note tune, and it quickly spread throughout the Union Army, and it even caught on with the Confederate forces. Carolyn Dill and Andrew Heath will now play taps. Please be seated. I have a couple of items before we close. And I encourage you to listen to the words and think about what you've heard this afternoon. Take a moment to visit the Boston Common, where 37,000 flags are planted, one for every service member in the Commonwealth, who are either missing or killed in battle since the Revolutionary War. Also encourage you to remember the 272 Massachusetts fallen heroes who gave their lives fighting for our freedom since 9/11, fighting the global war on terror. Also take a moment to visit Cambridge Common, where General George Washington took command of the Continental Army in 1775. General Washington declined to accept payment for his services beyond the reimbursement of future expenses. The United States Army's birthday is celebrated on June 14th, the same day as Flag Day. I also want to draw attention to the Army flag on the stage today. It is on loan to the town of Wakefield from the Patton Family Archives and the Wenham Museum. The inscription on the pole reads, "Presented to the 3rd United States Army by the 6th Armored Division, Germany, 1945. General George Smith Patton, Jr. died as a result of an auto accident in December of 1945. He never returned home to his family in Hamilton, where he planned to retire after World War II. He is buried with his troops in Luxembourg, American cemetery in the country of Luxembourg. The Patton homestead is now open to the public. I want to say a special thanks to Mr. Tom Benkert, Director of Programming and Visual Arts, and Ms. Anna Morrell, Performing Arts from the Wakefield Memorial High School. I will say the shows and the performances that I experienced this year were inspirational. Thank you very much for your education and teaching music to our students. And I wish to thank the team from WCAT who are with us recording today's ceremony. Many thanks to Ryan, Ian, Barbara, and the rest of your crew. And of course, thanks to the members of the Wakefield Fire Department, the Wakefield Police Department, and the Wakefield Department of Public Works. I ask that you please rise as Reverend LaRoe will lead us in a benediction to close this afternoon's ceremony. And then I ask that you remain standing as the cadets retire the colors.
Let us pray. Most High God, comfort the families and friends of those who have lost loved ones in battle. Heal their inner wounds. Bring closure to vets who replay the trauma of the battlefield over and over, who find it challenging to transition to a more normal life after such a defining experience. Help us to reflect on the individual human cost of preserving freedom in our troubled, broken world. And now may the light of God surround you, the love of God enfold you, the power of God protect you, the presence of God watch over you. Amen.
Color Guard attention. Color Guard advance. Color Guard honor the colors. Color Guard retire the colors.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Town of Wakefield 2022 Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you very much for attending. And I just want to give our presenters a round of applause. Thank you.